Hello and welcome to Consider This with Charles Lake. I'm your host, Charles Lake, and let's get started. Today I want to talk about why should the American people have to pay for insulin or anything else having to do with diabetes, seeing that the FDA has been asleep at the wheel for decades and not protecting the people, but protecting the corporations that are making the people sick. That's completely opposite of what they were created for. And first off, I would like to thank the Biden administration, along with Bernie Sanders and many others in Congress, for getting the insulin price down to $35 for people on Medicare. But what about the other people? And that's what we're here to talk about today. So, seeing that the FDA has been asleep behind the wheel and has been letting this go on, and this documentation's from 2008, but it refers back to stuff from 2006 and all the way back to 1979, when we know that that's when they found out that the styrene that they were feeding to the lab animals created diabetes just as fast as the styrene was attacking the men that were working in the styrene field. And but we're just going to go over this real quick, and we've got some other stuff to go through. So if we go down here, and this is on our fact sheets page, so if you wanted to get to it, and it's all highlighted and stuff, in the air, it's estimated that 47.3 million pounds per year is styrene is in the atmosphere. So it does have between 7 and 16 hours, I believe they said it was, that it takes to dissipate in the air, but there's so much of it in the air that it gets into our soil, especially after it rains, because it'll attach to the raindrop and go into our soils and into our grasslands and everything, and that's how. But if you want to break it down by state, you can see from 2006 how many pounds per state was put into the air and things. And into the water, a lot of it, no data, because they just didn't check it. So, but emissions from building materials, it says carpeting, floor tiles, insulation. What it don't say is the glues that are used to hold the furniture together nowadays, because we don't use solid wood. We use pressed, glued together particles, and the glue that's used usually has a styrene base to it. So that is something to think about. And again, the water, and this here gives you a lot of really good information. In fact, we want to go down to page 615, I believe it is. Maximum, and it tells you, okay, this is styrene may enter packaged foods with the migration from the polystyrene food containers, and it says from 100 to 3,000. Now, if you look at the Agency for Toxic Substance and Disease Registry, it tells you 1,000 to a little more, a little over. This 3,000 shows you that parts per million And you get that, and you get over that when you start putting greasy food in styrofoam food container. Because the greasier the food and the hotter the food, the more that container is going to leach into your food. I know people have seen it. I used to get French fries, and then they pour hot cheese over it. So from the greasiness of the French fries and the greasiness of the cheese, because you know that cheese ain't really cheese, but tastes good. I'd get back to the terminal, or I'd get out to my truck and I'd go to open the container, and parts of the container were missing. That's well over 3,000 parts per million. So it depends on what you put in them to how much leaches out of them. And we want to go down here to, and this here gave us the levels, minimum, maximum of parts per billion in our food. And they say this is, and this source comes from 2003. And this ain't telling the full truth, because we got all that styrene in the air. It rains. You ever have your grandparents tell you, "Oh, it smells so fresh outside," because all the chemicals are washed out of the air. They're down into the ground. They're in the ground, so they get into the grasses and things. Well, who eats all the grasses? Your beef, your pork, your sheep, your goats, everything that we use to make food out of. So now they've got it in their body, and they're also breathing it all the time, because we're putting so much in the air that we're constantly being bombarded. So that's something to think about. And it says exposure can inhalation, ingestion, or dermal absorption, which means you get it on your hands and or your body. So this is very important, because children can, and it tells you right here, so if they get the dirt in their mouth or paint chips, they can get styrene in them. It's in their breast milk, because women's breasts are basically fatty tissue, and that's where styrene is stored in a human body, is in our fat. So kids are being bombarded all over the place. And let's go to the silent pandemic. Now, this was done the same time that the Harvard, this was done. I had the original, but it got deleted off my server somehow. So I had to go back, and I found this is a partial developing brain, and such as, 1 out of every 6 children has the mental disability, usually caused from the nervous system, which styrene and BPA, and there's many other chemicals, because the FDA didn't vet a lot of chemicals into the system. They just let them go. As far as the flavoring aspect, so letting corporations use chemicals to flavor our foods. So this here tells you a lot about, but this here tells you even more. 1 out of every 6, just like the other, and most of the information came from here. So this here, the panel, it gives you the metal compounds, it gives you the organic compounds, which benzene's one, and if we got to go down here, and styrene's another, but you got, look at all these. These are all chemicals, and benzene they put in our soda. There's so much that we can do away with to make people healthier. It just costs the corporation a little more, and they don't want to do that because they don't want to raise the pay rate so that you can afford to buy new. They want to keep your pay down and make as much money as they can, and that's what it's all about. But if you go down here, and here's some more, continued. Pesticides, styrene is a pesticide. It's one of the chemicals used in making pesticides, let's put it that way. This is what you can, additionally, neurotoxic chemical produces lifelong changes in behavior and shortened attention span. Now, they know all this because they've done the research. And it's not that if we eliminate something out of our food supply, it's going to make a real big difference at this point, because until we have a balance of how much styrene we're putting into the air from our automobile exhaust or diesel exhaust or home heating oil or anything like that, corporations just dumping it in the air, we will not be able to bring the cost of the medical down for these products. And we've already went after the tobacco products. And this is the same chemical. Styrene is one chemical into tobacco products. Yet if you overlay the side effects, they almost mirror each other. So I seen an ad on TV the other day, nicotine, it shortens your brain and this, it's not the nicotine. The nicotine's the hook. The nicotine makes you crave the cigarette. The styrene and the other chemicals that you're breathing in and holding into your lungs is what destroys your body. That's what makes you different than what you were when you started. So the 2006 Harvard publication under the children's thing is really good to look at. 2018. Now these are the polystyrene hard containers, and when they come out of the factory, when you go to pick them up, they got an oil feeling to them. That's the styrene and things that's just on the surface that hadn't been brung into but that's how we get our pastries and stuff. And this I thought was prevalent because this is May 2nd when they put the Food and Drug Administration decide whether the 7 cancer-causing chemicals used as food flavorants could be taken out of our foods. And this here is on the page. It's the same with the CDC. Now, this is where in the United States, 1 out of every 5 adults has a disability. And they're trying to say it's because of the way we eat. In fact, if we go, where is it? Right, we go right here. Healthy living, and this is from the Health and Human Services. Healthy living involves more than avoiding risky behavior and health. Yeah, so the CDC is blaming people for eating wrong, when in fact the FDA and the CDC are not going after corporations that are putting chemicals in the food that are destroying the human body. So that's the biggest percent. And they go after Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee. They're saying that 31.5% and people with disabilities in the southern states, because they don't eat properly. And if we go here, you've got all the same, they fault people for having HIV, new infections, and but they don't take, how do you say it? They don't take their own advice as per what to put in the food. They're looking out for the corporation and not looking out for the people. And these again can be viewed under CDC and Health and Human Services on the page. So this is things here. These violate our health code, yet these are the people that are supposed to be protecting us, protecting our health. And why is medical costs so high? So as I was saying before, if we treat all these companies that go and put these things in our food and treat them like the tobacco companies, except for the fact that when we take the money from these corporations and the lobby groups, because the lobby groups are the ones that are pressing our government to do the wrong thing. So we take so much from them and we put it in Social Security and Medicare, so that, because the state, I don't know if people know this, I had to learn this the hard way. When I got poisoned back in '92, I filed for workman's compensation. Workman's compensation only pays for 1 year, and then if your doctors figure that you cannot get any better and you are going to be disabled, then you go on Social Security. Right now it takes 3 to 5 years to get on Social Security. So what happens is, after you're done with your workman's compensation, you have to go on welfare. Because if you can't work, and workman's comp says, well, we only supply a year's worth of medical, and after that you're supposed to go on Social Security. We don't have enough Social Security administrators to go through things. So now it's taken 3 to 5 years. They'll just keep denying you until they can get to go through your paperwork. I have a son that's gone through it, and I have a daughter that's gone through it. I have a daughter with epilepsy, and I have a son that is missing body parts. And they really messed my son up because they told him that he's only worth a little over $500 a month to live on because he's a multiple amputee. Where are you going to find an apartment for a little over $500 a month? Never mind feed yourself and get the medical supplies that you need that isn't provided by Medicare or insurance. He has to buy multiple gauzes and things, and they say, oh well, you got to do with what you get. And that's why my next show is going to be on some of the ways that the rich are just getting richer even after they retire on what they get from Social Security and why that should be changed. So I'm hoping you stay around for that. I'm hoping that you ask the question to your senators and congressmen and state representatives, why do we have to pay for all this medical stuff when it is our government that is costing us our health? Okay, I thank you for listening. I hope that you got something out of this, and I'm hoping that you really ask that question. Why do Americans have to pay anything for our health care when these corporations and our government are refusing to vet the product that they're putting out to make sure it's not toxic to the human body? Okay, I thank you, and I hope you have a very good day, and stay safe and stay healthy.